Sip coffee. Bro, I don't know what that is. Oh, Jack in the Box gotta do better with the boba straws, bro. How you gonna give me a boba drink with no boba straw? Yeah, F it. We just gonna take the lid. Yeah, we just gonna take the lid off the drink. Now, one more puff. All right, all right, all right. Gang, gangsters, potty training, all that good stuff. Ooh, boy. Mm. But you are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I am your host, Kyng Ralph, and we are in store for a good quality show today. Solo dolo joint, like I've been doing. Free agency been going wild, but I hope everybody is having a good day. Before we get started, shout out to all the sponsors. Well, not all the sponsors, but the sponsor. If you want to do a podcast like what you're watching, music video, photo shoot, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. Make sure you go and you follow all of our socials, Juke Media. Subscribe at Juke Media on YouTube. Like the He Say She Say channel on Facebook. Follow Juke Sports on Instagram. And you can follow me at every platform that I've mentioned at KYNGRALPH. Add an underscore for X or Twitter. And free agency is in full effect. Officially starts tomorrow, but teams have already began signing people, coming to verbal agreements, and all that good stuff. So we got some NFL free agent grades. I got 4 teams. I'm just going to mention their grade, their top 2 picks and or signings, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more depth when it comes to the Raiders, and I'm going to grab about four players and mention some other things as well. So first off, I got the Baltimore Ravens. I think bringing back Matabuke, who was someone that was a legit presence in the middle of that line, that front 7, clears up a lot of space for Roquan and Queen to be able to move freely the way that they did and how well that they played. Um, we'll get into Queen in a little bit. He left the team, but you still got Roquan. Hopefully you can bring back Jadeveon Clowney and how good the rest of the pieces on that defense. And so bringing back Matabuke, as well as bringing in King Henry, Derrick Henry himself. We've been talking about him for years, possibly in trade talks. Now it's official. He's officially a Baltimore Raven. 2 years, 16 mil, possibly in 20 mil with a 9 million signing bonus, guaranteed money for year 1. I think he gives them a little bit of balance to that offense. Before, it's been Lamar and committee. Um, Running backs haven't been able to stay healthy. For the most part, he's been healthy throughout his career. He had that 1 year, I think it was 2 years ago, where he missed the final like 6 games, or he missed a big chunk of games and then still came back for the rest of the season. It was one of the two. You either missed the last like 6 to 8 games and he still was a top 5 in rushing yards that year. So I think this year you get someone who is a punisher. It won't just have to depend on Lamar running the ball. You can hand the ball to him 200, 250 times a year and spread out that offense, because I think likely showed that he's a legit tight end. You already had Mark Andrews, who's a top 3 tight end, Zay Flowers. You had Rashad Bateman. Hopefully you can bring back OBJ or bring in another wide receiver. This is a very deep wide receiver draft class, and be able to spread out the offense to where they won't be able to pack the box because you have Derrick Henry, and I think it gives them a plethora of weapons. And so for the Baltimore Ravens right now, as we speak, I'm gonna give them about a B. I'll give them a B, B minus, because they lost Geno Stone, they lost Patrick Queen, they lost Duvernay. Who else was on that list of people that they lost? Trying to see if I can find it. But yeah, just some of the players that they lost for me is why I just personally can't give them a super high grade. They brought back Nelson Aguilar was another one, and then signing Matabuke to a 98 million contract for 4 years, 75 mil guaranteed, locking him in. I think is a big deal, but at the same time, some of the players that they lost and that aren't signed yet. So it's hard to give a grade based on stuff that hasn't happened yet, that it's not a finished product, but players that they have not brought back yet, I'm gonna give them about a B minus. And so after that, I got the Texans. Texans did a really good job bringing in high caliber Pro Bowl, All Pro talent, but also at positions of need. Last year, they didn't really have a consistent running game, and so you re-sign Dalton Schultz. You bring in Danico Autry, Jeff Okuda, Lonnie Johnson at both of those at cornerback position to give you a little bit more cornerback depth. Danico Autry, you put him on the same line with Will Anderson on one side, Daniil Hunter on the other, and then on offense, Schultz, um, Tank, what was it, Nico Collins. Then you got CJ at the helm, and then Joe Mixon. I think now you can start to see the team that they're building. And I think last year they gave up their first round pick, so I don't think they have any first round picks in this draft. But going forward, it's like the multitude of weapons, the coaching that D'Amico Ryans is doing. CJ Stroud showed from year one he's a top 10 quarterback. So I feel like going into this year, you definitely have the talent to go with some of these signings, and the fact that they were able to get Joe Mixon and Daniil Hunter, which both respectively are all pro type talents at their positions. So for me, I got them at a higher grade from the from the Ravens, but I definitely got them at a I probably got them at a B plus. I'll give them a B plus. I think the two signings that they got are big signings, but if I'm gonna grade other people at a higher level, then some in the middle, someone's got to fall. Um, Next up, we got the Steelers. They got Russell Wilson. They got Patrick Queen, like I mentioned before. Um, and then let me pull up this list. Russell Wilson, yeah, Patrick Queen. As we speak right now, I don't think that they brought in anybody else because I'm not seeing it at this moment in time. But I think that those two picks alone, I mean, those two signings alone are going to do pay dividends for them. I think the one thing that kind of brings me pause is with Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen did not play to the standard and hype that we thought that he would play for his potential until the Ravens got Roquan and he was able to move from the Mike linebacker spot to the weak side. And I think depending on the way that he is asked to play in position of linebacker, he's asked to play. Now, if he's asked to just play weak side, I think he'll be able to slide straight in, especially with the front that they have, and be able to meet what his contract says. Um, the thing that kind of brings me pause, like I said, is depending on what position that they put him at. I think Russell Wilson this is definitely going to be a make or break year for him. This is, I believe, is going to be his last go as a starter. At some point, he's going to start to be a bridge. The contract that he signed is a bridge year because I do believe they got him for 1 year. Yeah, I believe he signed a 1 year, with the Steelers, and I think his style of play fits what the Steelers like to do. I didn't think that he fit not Patrick, but Sean Payton's offense. Sean Payton's offense with Drew Brees and other quarterbacks has been that 3 or 4 step drop, get the ball out. Where Russell Wilson is more of a playmaker, move out the pocket, make plays down the field, even get you a couple 10 to 15 yard runs on a scramble. And so I think that off schedule um, style of play that Russell Wilson has fits better with this offense. He'll get to play for my man's. Um, and then the offense that he has, Fryermuth, Pickens, George Pickens, Najee Harris. They just traded Deontay Johnson, which I kind of saw that coming, especially the way that he finished last year. Just didn't really have the you could just tell he just didn't want to play no more. He gave up. It was like there's a lot of quit in it, which kind of caught me off guard. Um there's an infamous play that you could find where he's just there's a fumble. He doesn't even when the ball is snapped, he walks to the line of scrimmage, walks up to the cornerback, then the fumble happens, and you can see him turn around and walk off. And so I think Mike Tomlin is a player that a lot of people want to play for. So I think he'll be able to pull out those things in Russell Wilson that'll be able to. I think like he got another 2-3 years in him before it's time to give it up for him. And so Steelers, I'm going to give them about a B-. Right on par with the Ravens. I feel like who the Ravens signed are a little better. So maybe I'll probably give them a little bit more, but I feel like positions of need, the quarterback position, which I still personally feel like Russell Wilson has some good football in him. So I think getting a quarterback, finding someone that's going to solidify the middle, and then Joey Porter Jr., what he had, you still got Minka Fitzpatrick on the back end. And so I feel like someone at every level, they have a pro bowler at every level. That defense is going to be something that the Ravens and the Bengals is going to have to deal with. The Browns even. I feel like that's probably the best division in football right now. And so before we get to the Raiders, we got the Eagles. Eagles were able to grab Bryce Huff from the Jets, a very good edge rusher. While I pull up his stats, we got AFC East. And so, wait, where's it at? Who'd I pick? The Eagles. Oops, why'd I go NFC? Why I say AFC East? NFC East, my bad. All right, so while I pull this up, Eagles were able to get Saquon. They bring in Landon Dickerson, or give him they bring back Landon Dickerson. They bring in Bryce Huff, who was stats. Give me my stats. Who is coming off of a double-digit sack year, 10 sacks, nothing crazy, but it's definitely going to be effective when it comes to creating that pass rush, which is something that they struggled with. We'll see what happens as far as Hassan Reddick. I've heard talks of them either releasing him or trading him altogether, but bringing in 25-year-old edge rusher coming off of a double-digit sack year, you already got Jalen Carter in the middle. You bring in Gardner Johnson, who to solidify that back end, bring back Brandon Graham. And then you bring in Saquon Barkley. I feel like what they did, they definitely got an A as far as this free agent signing. As far as like the names, the names of the people that they were able to bring in, they bring in Akungbanan, Albert, tight end, for a 1-year deal. bring back Landon Dickerson, bring in a Saquon, Bryce Huff, Chauncey Gardner Johnson. I feel like that right there, you definitely got an A as far as, and I feel like they're the winners of free agency so far. There's been some other really good ones, like trying to think of who someone that really impressed me. I really liked some of these picks from the Packers. Xavier McKinney was a big pickup, and the Raiders losing Josh Jacobs, which is a perfectly good segue into what I wanted to talk about in the first place. So the Raiders, day one, got a big splash bringing in Christian Wilkins, who is one of the best young defensive tackles in the NFL right now, coming off of an All-Pro type season. They bring in a Gardner Minshew, who is, it's more of like, he's a good backup plan. I feel like I'm not going to go too hard on it because of understanding what the signing means for the team. Just because we're bringing him in does not mean that we're expecting him to come in and be a starter. Someone expecting to lead us to the promised land. I don't feel like that's not him. That's not what he's here for. I feel like he is the bridge to whoever our next quarterback of the future is going to be. Whether it's still leaves the possibility of bringing in a Justin Fields, which I feel like the lack of market for him right now puts it to where you seen Mac Jones get traded for a 6th-round pick. So I don't really see Justin Fields being traded for nothing higher than a 4th. And so I feel like getting a Gardner Minshew, bringing in a Justin Fields, or even whatever quarterback you're going to draft, I don't feel comfortable having them draft anybody higher than a 2nd round. I feel like some of the names that get thrown in that I think they have the 14th pick. So like a JJ McCarthy, a Michael Penix, a Bo Nix. For me, I just don't feel like either of those names are 1st-round grades in my personal opinion. I see them as very high 2nd-round grades. Um, and so Gardner Minshew is that bridge to that. Now bringing back Amir Abdullah, who was a special teams backup running back, I feel like brings some familiarity with the system, the way that the culture that Antonio Pierce has had, while also you give with Josh Jacobs, leaving, you get Zamir White, who could step into the starting position role, and then maybe we could draft a running back. There's still some running backs that are out there right now. Nothing crazy, no big splash running backs as we speak, but I feel like Dalvin Cook is still around, so I feel like that's somebody you could probably get for the cheap. Bringing back Andre James, um, good solid spot. You got Colton Miller, you got Andre James in the middle, and so we're building out that roster on the front line. I really feel like the Raiders are not contenders, but they're definitely a playoff team. Given the talent level that's there and the direction that they're going in. So with this grade, bro, I hate Jack in the Box so much. It did me dirty. They don't give me a boba drink with no straw. Maybe I did low key notice it. So I should have said something up front, but I was like, nah, I feel like this will fit. Nope, did not. But so the grade I'm gonna give them, I'm gonna give them a B minus because I feel like they brought back key pieces. They got one of the best players at his position because Wilkins still at 28 in his prime, 6'4", 310, can solidify the middle. One of those players that you can't double team him and Max. You got to decide to give up something. So in the middle of the lineup, you still got 9 sacks coming from him and 65 tackles. So I feel like he's someone that can help with the run. Hopefully, Tyree Wilson can continue to develop and give us some more help on the other side of Max. But we'll see what happens in the draft for them. And so I'm excited. I'm still happy about the direction. I'm glad that we got someone in the middle. I hate that we had to lose Josh in the process, but it's a business in the end of the day. One of the things I noticed, and like I mentioned, like Patrick Queen going to the Steelers, we saw Saquon go to the Eagles, and there was somebody else I saw go to a rival team, and so it leaves the question of should there be more loyalty in the NFL? And I get it. There are some aspects where you can look into it and be like, you know what, Saquon should have got a contract in New York with the Giants. So I blame the Giants for that. I don't really know the Ravens situation. I don't even know if they offered him a contract when it comes to Patrick Queen. But it is one of those things where I started to notice that there's 3 or 4 situations where a player, like even Geno Stone, went to the Bengals. Like players leaving teams and going to a direct rival is one of those things that was kind of like side eye, like eyes getting real tight, squinting. Like, why are these players going to rival teams? And I get it, it's a business, but at the same time, when you watch, I grew up watching football, so seeing players of other sports, I watch basketball, baseball, football. So seeing players from other sports just go from that's like somebody leaving the Lakers going to the Celtics or leaving Boston to go to the Yankees, which has happened many times. So I don't know, it just kind of brings me like, why is this happening? And I even seen someone else mention it on Twitter. And so should there be more loyalty in the NFL? And I think, given the situations, it depends on how long you play for a team. I don't blame Saquon for that. It does kind of give me a little bit of a when it comes to Patrick Queen. Geno Stone was another one that kind of had me like, why? What? How come they weren't able to bring him back? Um, so I'm gonna say no for the most part. No, there should not be any loyalty. It's a business. Whoever you are, a paid worker, whoever is willing to give you that bread, takes that bread. And so Cam Newton on his show Fourth and One was addressing the Johnny Manziel situation. If you have not seen, Johnny Manziel has made a statement saying that against his greater judgment, his morals, and things of that such, he will no longer be participating in the gatherings of the Heisman, previous Heisman winners of college football history, because they took away Reggie Bush's Heisman for whatever reason. Um, and so should Reggie get his Heisman back? And I feel like it's one of those things where like how there are many states that have marijuana is legal. And I get it, during the time period in which people did these things were illegal or against the rules. But when we start to get to the point where players are getting like the previous 2 Heisman winners have made 12 to 16 million in the last 2 years in college. And so it makes you go like, all right, like if they can make that type of money, why can't Reggie Bush get his Heisman back? He wasn't like he was doing anything egregious. It came back to be false. But let's just say, for the sake of this argument, he was taking money to get his mama house, car, for him to drive around the city, food, because we hear about how I was in college. I know what a college student is doing as far as his meals. There's a lot of ramen. There's a lot of dollar menus, instant macaroni, craft mac and cheese, and so to be able to make how much money these universities were making off of these students, for him to just to have the essentials, is I don't feel like there's anything wrong with it. I don't feel like there's anything egregious. Yes, I know at the time it was against the rules, but give him back his Heisman at this point, because now players, the previous 2 Heisman winners, made almost $15 million between the 2 of them in the past 2 years, and he wasn't even getting close to that. So I feel like Reggie Bush should definitely get his Heisman. I seen that the Heisman committee said it was like some school sanctions that really is what's holding it up. So hopefully they can get this thing together and put in and get it back to its rightful owner. And so I did a lot of football. I know I was gonna get the 2 minute drill thing, but since we talked about football today, 2 minute drill is back. So Sauce Sauce Gardner was on the pivot, and he pretty much ripped McCole Hartman, um, and his comments on the way that the Jets organization was ran. He felt like he knows championship winning football. He was on a championship winning team. He caught the game winning touchdown in overtime. And so Sauce has some things that he goes back and forth with him. And so it kind of gives me like, whose side are you on? And I would say the side I'm gonna say I'm on the side of Sauce for a few reasons. One, I feel like Sauce is all pro. So I feel like regardless of him being on a championship winning organization, all he knows is the Jets. But I feel like he's a good enough football talent to know whether or not the organization is doing the right thing or not. Yes, things didn't work out the way that it should have. They brought in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Now Zach Wilson is the guy. Mecole Hardman is supposed to be one of Aaron Rodgers' weapons. And now Zach Wilson is the person throwing the football. So I understand that part and that perspective. But then when you look at the tape, you look at the film, you look at the things that Sauce Gardner said, where you're dropping special teams punts, kick returns, you're coming in the meetings late, you have an attitude when you're there. It makes you go like, this is kind of weird. It's kind of like watching Rick Fox from the Lakers go to another team, and now he's expected to be this dude. And it's like, bro, you had Shaq and Kobe. And it's like, bro, you were on a team with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey, and Patrick Mahomes, and Chris Jones was all on the same team. Like, it wasn't like you were winning these Super Bowls. It's like you were being dragged along. You're a bus rider. You're not the bus driver, to use Charles Barkley's um, analogy. And so I'm on Sauce Gardner's side. I feel like Mecole Hardman is doing one of those things where he was on a team, but he's acting as if he was that dude. And it's like, yes, you were a contributing factor, but you're still not that guy. You're not moving the needle, which is why we've been seeing free agent signings for 3 days now, and he still isn't signed to a team yet. Like, if you were that guy, you would have already had a contract already. And so, last little bit before we move on, before we end the day, is D'Lo finally getting an opportunity. And it's been on a little bit of a hot streak. LeBron being injured, even LeBron letting him do his thing while playing. He came out and said that pretty much the criticism he has faced and the fire being put through the fire has made him the monster that he is today. And so I feel like this asks the question, should criticism be a motivator? And yes, it should. 100%. I feel like too often we get to a day and age, and we're in this day and age where whenever you tell someone to criticize them, they look at it as hate, or yeah, you just hate, it is what it is. Like, oh, you don't want to see me shine. It's like, no, not all things is that deep. I feel like sometimes people know you can do better, so they want you to do better. And I feel like just letting somebody do things that is wrong, or against their better judgment, is not hate. Like, knowing somebody can do better and just not saying anything is doing them a disservice at the end of the day. And so D'Lo, as we've seen D'Lo play well. We've seen him play at an all-star level when he played with the Nets. He went to the Timberwolves for whatever reason. He says they were holding him back. I personally feel like they didn't let him play his style of basketball. And then playing alongside LeBron, you kind of get a little bit of that same thing. And so I think the criticism can do you some good, and just use it as motivation and know that you can do better. And so thank you all for watching. I got to get up out of here. It was a pleasure. And like I always say, love, peace, and the Aces 3P.